without further ado, Adam, welcome. How are you doing?
What's up, guys? Good. I just listened to the full intro, and I put on my FUD jacket. This is a FUD jacket, so I'm
Love it.
ready to chat about everything that went wrong and everything that went well. And I also love the title of the show, "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly." It's very apt. It's what
Cool.
most of crypto building actually looks like. Is that
Yeah.
exactly that line? So yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Adam, we're going to get into all things Star. We're going to get into, the whole recent launch and just everything regarding that. But first and foremost, let's set the stage. Let's make sure people know who you are, what you're building, what Star is, and then we can get into, what's been transcending. So Adam, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Adam. I'm the founder and CEO of Stardottfun. We go by Star. And what we're building is essentially a live fundraising platform where startups launch public token sales live on stream. We're building this to really enable this vision of the internet capital markets. Our origin story, which you might have read as well, is that earlier this year during the AI meta, my co-founder and I, Darren, we launched a coin on Pump Fund for an AI project. This was a experiment. We had a framework. It was an open source reinforcement learning framework, but it was not very much built out. I built a website for it, and we just saw this effect happening with AI projects on Pump Fund, where they were able to bootstrap community and attention through a token launch. And I thought that idea was really interesting. I've been a founder for 10 years now, built a bunch of different projects, and I got tired of pitching VCs to fund my ideas. So I was like, okay, let's try Pump Fund. Long story short, it was anything but fun. It was a crazy experience. I mean, we went through the whole cycle of like thousands of people in a Telegram group sending dick pics, racial slurs, the whole gamut. People screaming at us to lock the tokens investing. So we went in on this ride like completely like we raw dog the thing. We had no advice. I wish I had someone like Mercy to like guide me through that before we went through it, because it probably would have helped a lot. But by the end of it, like interest sort of died out, and it's an open source project, so it's not easily monetizable. Trump coin hit, with the Melania coin hit, tariffs started hitting, the market basically died out, and we're asking ourselves, we're like, why was there no better place for us to launch a token like this? And this is pre-believe, this is pre-pump creator fees, pre-heaven. This was like late February, and we basically set out to build a platform that we would have wanted to launch on. 3 months later, late June, we launched, and then with the backing of Meteora, we got a ton of attention on our initial fundraiser, which was 4 Star. We wanted to like walk the walk, and basically fundraise 4 Star on Star as a proof of concept to other founders that it's possible to raise like this. We did a 7-day raise. We set out to raise a 250K minimum, 500K max for 20% of token supply. First 5 days, we raised fucking nothing, like 8K. So we're really far off from our goal. And it was looking like we were going to fail, despite tons of efforts. I mean, we got a showcase from Winium, who I still remember from like the AI days.
Yeah.
We had a Blockworks article. I was on a show with Nick Wenzel before he started working for Believe. I don't think you guys were around then, but
No, not
We
MCG.
were, but like we were focused on other trading stuff.
okay, you guys
Yeah.
were for raising funding for the show.
That's how you want to put it. Maybe.
Okay,
Maybe losing funding for the show.
right.
The way the
Up and
markets
down.
were.
But yeah, so we did a bunch of work, and then by the 5th day, I remember waking up, and we'd set up shop in Darren's house, like monitors everywhere. It was like 24/7 working, sleeping like 4 hours a night, like really hustling, having calls like this, pitching founders, pitching investors. And I was like, yo, why are people not resonating with this? Because it's like this whole experience is really cool. Like what we're trying to build has like meaning and can significantly change the way that not just startups fundraise, but like democratize access to early stage investments. Like it's like a two-sided story, right? And so basically I was like, yo, let's turn on a live stream. And the idea had kind of come from the product market fit or die guys. They basically said it like they did a 31-day straight live stream where it was like they were going to find product market fit or die. I guess that's like the title of the show.
That makes sense.
So we turned on a live stream and we basically had it running 24/7. And like the first day we didn't get a lot of views, but then towards the end of the fundraise, as we started getting more and more attention, we're still marketing, of course, but we noticed that that attention became very sticky. People came to our fundraise site and were like, oh shit, like these are real guys in a real room, like hustling, building something. They heard me talking impassionately to investors, founders, all kinds of people. And we ended up raising 450K in the last 12 hours of the fundraise.
Were you guys streaming on X? Where were you streaming to?
It was both X and Twitch through Restream. Yeah. But at the time, like our platform didn't look like what it looks like today. It was like the stream was like in a little corner of the project page because we didn't want to put a ton of time into like developing it. We just wanted to experiment. So after that, after we closed the raise, we were like, holy shit, like I think we kind of stumbled on something really interesting here, which is combining this idea of like fast-paced fundraising on crypto with a live stream. And that was sort of the origin story of what you see today. And an easy way I describe it to people is that Star is like, imagine if Twitch, Kickstarter, and the NASDAQ had a baby. That's what we're building. So yeah, I hope that gives a good intro.
No, that gives a great intro. And I think it also goes to show just kind of the life cycle some of these projects see, right? Where it's like super, super slow, slowly, and then all at once, and it kind of hits. And I've looked at R, and it's interesting that life cycle has kind of happened a few times now. It's like you had the fundraising round. That was number one. Number two, you had like the initial launch, and you guys were just like kind of dead at 500K for weeks. Then some attention hit, and everyone FOMOed in. And it feels like now you're kind of in that same place again, waiting to maybe repeat. Well, hopefully in your case, repeat the life cycle, right? So, you know, I think it's a testament. What would you say that's taught you when it comes to just determination and perseverance? Because, like I said, you've seen this now a couple times.
Oh man, so much. I think one is that like a chart is not an indicator of product market fit. Like it's far from it. You know, they're kind of separate things. And so people can like deeply believe in your vision and in where the thing's going, but not want to buy in, or at the same time not believe in what you're actually building from a product perspective or the audience you're serving, but just FOMO in because the chart's going up, right? Like, so I think for our team, we stopped looking at the chart as an indicator of how successful our business is, because they're kind of like two separate things. Obviously, when like our price is going up and the token's doing really well, that serves as like an additional like traction channel. Like teams see that and they're like, oh shit, like those guys must be doing something right. I want to raise with them. Whereas inversely, if it's going down, they're like, oh, okay, like we need to be a bit more cautious here. So that's, I think, one like negative side effect from the chart that I see. But otherwise, like our determination to build the best fundraising platform for startups is like unwavering. Like from the moment we were like, and this story, like I haven't said this to many people, but when we were doing our initial fundraiser, I was dead broke. Like I was like close to not being able to pay my rent and pay my phone bill because I'd put all of my time and all of my effort into this project. And it was like that 7-day fundraiser had to work out. It was like, it was either that or I was calling my mom and being like, Mom, like my last couple ventures, like they didn't exactly work out and I need to try again. Like I'm going to come to your house and build from there for a bit. It was like, it was getting to that point. And so I think like on an ongoing basis, we have such a like strong amount of determination to make this thing work because we really believe in it. And we've been in the shoes of every founder that we're speaking to. Like Darren, he tweeted the other day, he was like, our moat is that we never give up. And like, even though we've seen this in tremendous high and now a tremendous low, like we're still determined to build what we think will be the best ICM launchpad in Solana. So that hasn't changed.
Can I ask a question around your fundraise? So 7 days you raised 400K, was that right? Just so I can get the numbers correctly.
The total was 451, I think.
450. And what are the use of funds? Walk us through like what you guys are using those funds for, and did those people get tokens? Like how does that fundraise equate to the token, if at all?
Yeah.
And is that just pure? Do those investors just own equity in Stardottfun, the company? Can you just walk us through
And
that?
also, is there a new Lambo in your garage or no Lambo?
Yeah, where's the Lambo? We want to know where.
Yeah.
There's no Lambos. Phone bill is paid, but there's no Lambos.
All right, phone bill paid.
We
Phone
need
bill
Yeah.
that.
paid.
I'd say
That's
that's bullish.
important. That's really
Yeah.
important. Bullish as fuck. So basically, the way our fundraisers work is founders allocate a percentage of supply to the sale, and then between the minimum and the maximum, their FTV is essentially like a moving range, which is why we call it a range pre-sale. Because let's say you hit your minimum, and you're selling 20% of supply for 100K, that makes your FTV 500K, right? Assuming you're selling 20% of supply, for example. So the way our sale worked was we did 20% for a minimum of 250, maximum of 450, maximum of 500. We ended up raising 450, so our FDV in the end was 5 times 450, so somewhere around the 2 mil mark. And that's the tokens are distributed according to how much money you contribute to the pre-sale.
Got you. And we're wanting to get into all, the everything that happened post your first stream. But my question is then what happens after you make that raise? I guess it'd be difficult to raise again because the token's tradable, right? So if people want a piece of the token, they could just buy it on the open market. So what happens to the remaining 80% in this case of tokens?
Yeah, so that goes into vesting, basically like long-term vesting contracts that teams can customize depending on the life cycle of their project. For us, we're like more or less on a 3-4 year timeline here in our vesting. There's a good chance we'll extend that, but this seemed like a great number to reassure people about like our time commitment to the project and also to align incentives and what we think, what time is needed for us to actually make this thing work. So those tokens go into vesting, and the way we see it, I think first of all, like the fair launch model, I think it's broken. I don't think it works for funding startups. If you like have no supply control, first of all, like you're basically giving away 100% of your tokenized equity, right? So that doesn't make sense. So the way we see tokens is more like we're trying to view them as traditional shares, where in your first round you do 20%, then you have a publicly traded token, and then maybe like a year later you can take another 20%, do another fundraise on Star, and then the mechanics there likely will be that you offer tokens at a discounted price with a longer lockup, right?
Mhm.
So you give there's a token trading on the market, but you give people that are really committed to the project the ability to grab more at a discount, but they have to lock their tokens up for a certain amount of time. So you reduce the amount of sell pressure. So the philosophy there is sort of like we want startups to do their seed with Star, but then also to be able to do their Series A or Series B with the same token supply. And that doesn't work if they've sold 80% of token supply in the first round, right? They only retain 20. You can't do that. So that's kind of the way we're seeing supply allocation, and I think that's more in line with like traditional ICOs and that whole era of crypto.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like a catch-22 too as well, because it's like if the tradable token value kind of goes down, then they won't be able to raise as much as maybe they did even their first round. So it's really interesting, because it takes a lot of time to see these companies really be successful in many cases. And so that would potentially reflect in the market trading at a discount until they have some sort of product market fit. So it'll be an interesting mechanic and experiment to see kind of play out live, because in some cases you're going to have the tokens that do really well and people would kill for a 20% discount and have, a year locked invested. Whereas some tokens are going to be terrible, doing terrible, and people are the team can't even fundraise any more money because the token's performing so poorly, and then no one's going to want to buy into the fundraiser. So I don't know. It'll be
That's a great point, Dom. I actually just want to double tap on that scenario. So what if in your mind, companies are doing sometimes they call it a down raise, where they're raising at a lower valuation than the tokens are currently trading at.
there
The
we go.
matrix is completing itself.
Nice. This is my co-founder, Darren.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late.
Hey, Darren.
All good, Darren.
I brought my charger, my Mac charger, like 10 minutes before, and it was already so low. So I decided to quickly Uber over.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. So you were gonna do
Yeah.
it from your house, and now you're doing it with
Yeah.
them. Let's go.
Yeah.
I think
Thanks
this is
for
the
here.
first time on MCG we've had a double stream,
Is
you know,
it?
main camera double stream, I guess.
I kind of like it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we work out of Amsterdam. We're based here, so we try to spend as much time as we can. It's much better. But your question was about trading, like doing a follow-on fundraise with the down round. That was the
Yeah,
question.
maybe before we get to that, let's get an intro to maybe Darren and catch him up a little bit on what we've discussed.
Yeah,
But
for
go
sure.
ahead, Adam, if you want to lead that with Darren.
Yeah, I told him what Star is, our origin story,
Okay.
all the way back to Reline.
Yeah.
Our origin story of doing a fundraiser and saving the day with a live stream, and then kind of how we got to where we are today.
Nice.
And
Were you guys
yeah,
like sleeping while the live stream was going and stuff, or like
yeah.
paused
Yeah.
it, or-
I was sleeping in the room where the live stream was, so you could see me actually with like an eye mask on in the morning. Yeah. And like a little backstory, like Darren and I, like we know each other since we've been like 8 years old. We're like childhood best friends. And since kids, we've always been building stuff. Like first it was like Minecraft, RuneScape. Then it became music. Then we built a few companies together here in the Netherlands, furniture businesses. And then, like our relationship naturally evolved towards building startups. And Darren has a computer science background. He's gone to like the MIT of the Netherlands, which he wouldn't say, but he's very humble. And so like now our current obsession is really just like trying to fix crypto. If I can
And
say
wait,
that.
I want to touch on that real quick because you said you had like a furniture business as well. And
Yeah.
okay, so what brought you guys to crypto? Because you were doing the traditional businesses, it sounds like, and then
Yeah. I
what
think
happened?
I think from my side, I was always like crypto adjacent. Like I had friends building stuff on Ethereum, friends that are like super Bitcoin maxis, like, you know, sort of the gamut. And then it started, I met a friend who was basically, this was like September of last year. He was like telling me about his meme coin trading strategy. And I was like, I'd heard about meme coins. I was like sort of curious about it. So I started looking into it, and around the same time, these AI coins started coming about. I was trading AI coins, and it was going pretty well. And then I was like, okay, there's something interesting here in like helping startups bootstrap attention and capital. And at the time, Darren was living with me. Where were you working?
I was working at a Dutch trading firm / investment bank
Yeah,
as a
wow.
quant. Yeah.
a super dry traditional.
Yeah. It was bad.
And like
Really
Darren and I spend our time like we're trying. I think we're trying to be futurists, like try to think about where things are going. And so I was like seeing this renaissance of like startup financing on Pump Fund, like the oddest places. And Darren was at this trading firm, and so at the time he was working on that AI project, and that's kind of where things coincided.
We launched the token, by the way, while I was working at the traditional,
Yeah,
like the bank, and I had to tell all my colleagues, and they they had no idea what was going on. It's like two different worlds,
Yeah.
essentially.
And so what did that do for you? Did you have to leave that job? Did they not like you having a token? Like, where are you today? Are you still working there?
No, I'm not working there anymore. It was like an internship. So after the internship, I think this was around, when was
it's
this?
March or April.
Yeah, it was full-time Star after that.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah. I was like, Darren, you have to build this company with me. I
Yeah.
need a CTO. And yeah, I mean, usually when I ask Darren to build something with me, he doesn't say no. So
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah, so the original token obviously had a lot of FUD at some point. You got maybe your first FUD storm is when people figured out like you guys had worked on something prior to this.
Yeah.
Do you want to just maybe clarify like how that ended, where things ended with that, and like I don't know, just give us some context, clarity, why. I mean, startups fail, right? We know this. Things fail, things happen. Like, kind of tell us, did you profit off that? Did you not? Like, where did you guys end with that and start transitioning to Star?
Yeah. So I think we launched it like late Jan or early Feb, and there was like a four-week hype cycle. And I think the main reason it failed is because we weren't ready to have a token. Like there was not really a product. Darren was scrambling to get a framework online. something that other open source developers could play with. Yeah, that's our co-founder. So like there's so much hype and attention and demand for something, but like in no human possible way could we have delivered something to meet that attention and demand. So
And
at some
we didn't
point,
have any funding.
and there was then there was like the model of Pump Fund, which at the time there's no creator fees, right? So like you're not earning on any trading volume, even
So
though
what
the
was that,
volume,
like 0.01% of each transaction going back to you guys, or nothing?
there was nothing, no.
Nothing.
So it was we did 50 mil in volume in like 7 days. It was absurd. It was
Oh,
actually
man.
absurd. Yeah. And we didn't bundle, so we just bought supply from a dev wallet because we're like, okay, this is how you buy supply. Like we're really rookies at it, right?
I wasn't even there.
He wasn't
I was
even. He was,
I was in the train. My phone was off, and I came home, and the market cap was at 6 mil or something
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're like,
So what,
you know
Adam,
what?
you just got the idea to launch and you were like, all right, I'm launching this, not even gonna really talk to anyone, just doing it.
Just put a PNG as my photo and like, let's go.
Well, we
Yeah, were
had
you
like,
anon or doxed?
I was doxxed. I've always been doxxed. Yeah. I mean, Darren and I were talking about it, and then one night I was like, sort of like, I was like, you know what? Like, he's gonna be okay with it if I launch it, and he comes home in a bit. Like, it's probably gonna do nothing. Like, there was really not that much thought going into it, and then he came home and the thing exploded, and then we like shifted gears and tried to actually build the product, but along the way, like we had no means of securing any working capital to actually build the business. Like we could have OTC tokens at some point. We had the minimum amount needed to OTC tokens, but then that was like, okay, who are you OTCing to? Are these transactions legitimate? Then the next day the price collapses because Trump coin launches. Like it was such a wild ride, and we at the end of it we were like, why couldn't we just launch the thing, raise funding through a token sale? Then you have capital to actually build the thing. It just didn't make sense to us, and that's kind of why we decided to build Star.
Yeah, ironically, it's a difficult story, difficult outcome, but it is maybe your biggest like use case and practicality of why Star even needs to exist, right? It came from a need in the first place, and so what could have been maybe used as a failure, we're going to give up, turned into a driving factor behind how things need to change. And I think like that is powerful. And so it actually can work in both ways. Maybe some people think it's a negative, but you guys could champion it as a positive thing. So just interesting. So I'm glad we got some clarity on that. But now you moved on to Star. We want to make this about Star. Obviously, that's what's important. But you moved on to Star. You guys went live with your first. You guys announced this crazy panel. You had Mercy, Soju, bunch of other people on this panel. Like the hype was clearly there. I guess to put into context, you guys went from like a 500K market cap to what was it, 20, 30, 40 FD, fully diluted value, 40 mil. I don't know, something crazy. And like people were just anticipating this panel, this stream you went, this live fundraising round. Walk us through what that looked like. Obviously, the expectations were not met. Walk us through what you think maybe went wrong and how you're kind of planning on, making this work.
Yeah, for sure. So I think little backstory behind like where this concept and idea come from. Basically, since we launched Star and completed our fundraiser, we've been speaking with a number of Web2 teams, primarily Web2 teams, to like bring them onto the platform. And we wanted to create an event that would give them like a really compelling reason to launch, right? And to give them this lift and boost that they would essentially almost be guaranteed to close their funding because the amount of attention and hype there would be behind the event. And we saw like the primary mechanism to do that was just to bring really sick voices from crypto and beyond to be on a panel, kind of like a Shark Tank concept. So that was like the vision behind it. I think what we saw is so much hype and speculation around who's going to be on the pitching teams. And in looking back, I don't think we met the expectations of who was going to be there. I think people were expecting like the next Sam Altman or like Elon Musk to pop out and like pitch for a new startup. Like we're at that level of hype and speculation, it felt. Whereas in reality, like this was for us an MVP to prove the concept of like live fundraising, and to prove that a team would be able to raise money live on stream on Star. And so with that, like the caliber of teams also was MVP grade essentially. Whereas the panel, and this is something we kept talking about internally, is like the panel was so stacked because people were so excited to be a part of this because it's entirely new, super fresh. So there's like this really heavy skewing of like really great panelists and like our first cohort of startups who were like bold enough to trust us to do this, right? Because especially for the Web2 founders, this is such a foreign new space that it takes a lot for them to be able to, for them to be willing to make this leap, right?
We had some good ones or great ones even fall out as well.
Yeah.
Last minute.
Yeah, and like
So,
this is also not public information, but out of we had 6 teams confirmed for the event, and 4 of those dropped out. One of them 12 hours before the eventual pitch day. And
Any
they were
reason
all-
why they dropped out?
Yeah, so it was mostly legal reasons. It was mostly like they were European based teams, one of them US based, and they were just afraid of launching an unlicensed token sale, of it being like perceived as a security. It was completely new territory for them, and one of the biggest things we learned from this event was like we shouldn't be trying to convince people to launch a token. And maybe this falls on like Believe's in the court of Believe and the other ICM launch pads, but like we saw so much demand organically inbound from Web3 native teams and have been seeing demand. Like my calendar is stacked with crypto native teams that really understand what we're doing and don't need to be sold on the idea of having a token in the first place. Whereas that was what our first cohort of startups was going to look like, right? And so for a lot of them, they just got cold feet the week before because they were like, okay, we're not sure if this is 100% by the books. They're not sure about being the first ones to do it. It was just a really big ask for a lot of them. And unfortunately, like 4 of them dropped out, and some of them are really, really great teams. One of them, Antler, like a big accelerator incubator program. We had a team, a small music startup in the US with like significant traction on TikTok and Instagram. They dropped out 12 hours before, which is super rough for us. So it was like definitely a battle to get this thing live and to have, you know, even 2 teams in there for our like proof of concept event. And I think we did all of this with like the biggest audience possible with the biggest panelists we could get. So it was like setting up to be like, you know, either like this giant win or we're just gonna like not meet expectations and fail
in public.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like we're still really happy we did it. We saw like proof of concept in the event being something that people want to tune into. Panelists are still excited to be a part of it. Like we're lining up panels for future events. Startups are like, holy shit, I want to be the one on the stage pitching. And we just learned so much. Like all this stuff you see of like FUD and feedback, like that all goes into our iteration cycle and it'll just make the next ones better. So looking back, I wouldn't change it for anything else.
Okay, good. So there are 2 things I want to touch on. Firstly, you guys have like a pretty, at least seemingly a pretty long runway because of that first $400,000 raise you made. So like, you know, maybe the first iteration didn't go as planned, but like at what point do you guys stop? Or is it like, cause you have plenty of funding, it sounds like. I mean, you just are going to keep going, or what does that look like?
Do we stop? What just
No.
Like,
Obviously
you're not.
stop?
Yeah, no, like you. I don't. I'm saying you have all this runway, $400,000. Like, what are your next plans? You obviously have to bounce back and keep working on a product and iterating. I was listening to Ray Dalio the other day on a podcast, and he said the biggest thing you can do is reflect on those moments of, you know, those tougher moments and actually learn something. You guys have a lot of reflection to do. and come back with new iterations. And like, there's a lot of feedback you guys got. So like, what happens next? You have this money, you have the runway. What
We
do you
want to
guys
know
do
the
from here?
comeback story. What is
Yeah.
it?
Oh yeah, you're gonna be first to hear it, I guess. So we have another event planned. The date's not confirmed yet. It'll be within September. We have the panelists confirmed. It's an all-star lineup. The announcement will be going out either later today or tomorrow.
Wow.
So we're gonna run it back again, this time with crypto native teams, all established businesses with the proof of concept, traction, users, revenue, who really understand the game of what it takes to launch a token and like put themselves behind it. So our focus internally is flipped from trying to onboard like Web2 native companies to just focusing on finding the best crypto companies and getting them to launch on Star. So that's what the panel is going to be about, or that's what the team, like the cohort's going to be about. On the panel, we have 3 crypto native funds that are also actively looking for deal flow, and will either be publicly participating or privately alongside the raise. So it's very much like a crypto native event that's coming up. And I think that's like higher level strategy. We're just pushing for this next event, and taking all of the learnings we had on making that one our big win and really stand out. On the technical side, I mean, I can let Darren elaborate a little bit on what we learned from the way that people are fundraising and launching tokens.
Yeah, so I think our pre-sale mechanism, or it's not even, it's like a ranged auction. You set a min and a max, and that kind of determines the initial starting price of your token. We switched to pre-sales because we thought that DBCs were kind of like a race to, you know, who can get in first, and you don't really want that. And it turns out that if you switch to pre-sales, it becomes a race on who can get out first, right?
Mm.
And no, the optimum is somewhere in between. So we're thinking pre-sale with investor vesting, and then onto the DAMM basically. Yeah, and we're also moving some of the operations regarding the liquidity seeding and vesting and token minting. We're moving that on chain as well, because we did that in the backend last time, and there were a couple of technical difficulties there. So this time we're moving it all on chain. Yeah, so technically it should be a lot smoother, and for the investors, it should also be a bit more. Well, we want to protect them as well, right? Because yeah,
That's you
pre-sale. And, yeah,
you had a really interesting line there where it said, you know, people bonding off a dynamic bonding curve, they want to race to be the first ones in, and the people from a pre-sale are racing to be the first ones out. I think like that's a really interesting thought that I've never kind of processed myself. And so you guys had this first iteration, you realized that. So help me understand a little bit better on how you then, I guess, mitigate the race out, like you just spoke about. What I'm not a super technical guy, but technically, what does that look like in terms of change?
well, so we want to put investors essentially also investing, and maybe we unlock 20%
At TG.
at TG itself, and then put 80% investing or something like this, and then we reward them with some of the proportion of the trading fees as well. That is kind of the complement of the unlocked tokens they have. So
they have an aligned incentive to allow the chart to have price discovery.
yes,
Exactly.
and yeah, I think that I often joke that Solana is too fast. We need to slow Solana down, right? It's everything in Solana is built around speed, and we all try to make it as fast as possible. But building companies takes time, and you kind of need to match the cadence or the frequency of the transactions that happen on Solana with company building itself. And I think vesting is one way to kind of enforce that, enforce a bit of patience in the investor essentially.
And I create a mechanism where teams can raise from people who are thinking along those same time frames, right? So if the teams we're talking to now, let's say they need 3 months to properly build a marketing rollout for their new product, but they need capital to build that new product, for example, then you want to have a base of investors that's bought into the token, knowing that those are the timeframes that they're working with, right? And then that reduces sell pressure post pre-sale. You basically leave the market open just for buy pressure, and projects can sort of like they can. If you're an investor that doesn't think of that time frame, you won't buy in the pre-sale, right? That's the way we see it. So you only really attract the smart money. That's what we want to go for.
I have a question around how you bring in these funds, because I think this is like this natural friction between the VCs have had all the gains from these kind of pre-sale things or high net worth individuals. Like, how do you introduce but on the other hand, they're sticky capital. They're usually longer term focused, but they're also there with liquidity. Whereas like having just retail investors do these early launch pads, it's kind of like maybe million of them show up, maybe 10 of them show up. We don't know. So like, how do you balance out on your next one? Yes, we got allocation for VC funds, but we also have enough allocation from retail investors. So there is that community and that alignment on day one.
I mean, the way we see it
is funds also like, does the LPs of these funds also understand that's the premise of the launchpad, or are they just trying to get their money in and like, or do they see value in having that kind of retail community alongside them?
I think for them, primarily the interest is in putting their face and name out and being like, hey, we're a cool fund that's active on panels, and we are like, for them, it's deal flow at the end of the day, right? That's the main thing. Whether they participate in the token sale or not, that's up to them. We're exploring a mechanic where maybe panelists can invest live on the stream, like actually during the stream at some sort of discount. So they have some benefit to investing live on the stream, which creates these really cool moments, like the Shark Tank moment when Kevin O'Leary is like, I'll give you 300K for 20% of your business. Then the other guy's like, I'll give you 500K. You know what I mean?
And then everyone else FOMOs after that.
Yeah, exactly. So like we see a lot of potential in like moments like that. But we do want to, like, we don't want it to be completely crowded out by like liquid funds owning the entire round. So we set like a max deposit cap from their end, or somehow cap the amount of participation they can have, so that the community and the funds can invest side by side. Because like the end of the end game of the platform is like democratize access to public investment. So we shouldn't be the ones, like we shouldn't fall into the trap of giving like insider allocations that the public doesn't know about, that are not transparent. That's really not what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. And then sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we will also have some sort of instruction in the contract that allows teams to kind of hot batch their distribution and participators, because you don't want to go into your TG with a very skewed or unequal distribution, right? So you can kind of return money or refund money from certain wallets if they want.
Can you explain that hot batch concept you just brought up?
It's like what Light did with their refund. There were a lot of some people got in really big, and it kind of skewed their holder distribution to a point where they thought that it wasn't fair anymore, or in that line, right? And then they refunded some of these holders to make it more even, and that is something that we will make it or built into the contract as well.
Got you. Yeah, we see all these launch pads popping up, kind of like I would guess portraying surrounding ICM. Like everyone's kind of trying to get a piece of the next ICM wave. Do you think the answer is a one size shoe fits all, or like is there room for Stardottfun to exist and Believe to exist? Would Stardottfun ever partner hypothetically with Believe and have just like a different mechanism for them to launch via that platform? What does the future of ICM and launchpads look like, I guess is my general question.
It's funny. We had a chat with Ben about this, and we're wondering whether it's a winner take all situation or not. We don't think so. I mean, we think the market will naturally fragment into like launch pads that are really focused on a specific persona. And it seems like Believe is more going for a general audience of like builders, influencers, creators, rather than like zeroing in hard on startups, which we're doing. Like we want to be the launch pad for startups on Solana. And then I think naturally what we'll see is like, just like in any other space, you'll have specialists, you have generalists. The generalists will acquire the specialists, or the specialists or the generalists will die out. And then you basically just get this rotating thing. But yeah, like we're zeroing in hard on the needs of early stage startups and trying to ensure that they can not just secure working capital, but also then bootstrap that community and like supercharge their growth with a token. So that's like our core USP at the end of the day. And the way we see us doing that, or what we believe to be important in the space right now, is like that it's not just a token launchpad. Like it's really easy to spin up a token launchpad. Like you can use the DBC program from Meteora to like build a launchpad in literally 24 hours, probably less. Like you guys could have a launchpad tomorrow if you wanted,
Right.
and launch a token for every stream. Like it's not hard to build, right? So what's a differentiating feature of a launchpad? Okay, it's distribution, it's network, but then the way we view it, it's also experience, right? So what we're really trying to tap into is like live streaming and founders building and raising live on stream, because we think that if you offer a differentiated experience, then it becomes a much more exciting thing for people to participate in, both on the founder, the supply side, as well as like the investors, right? So yeah, that's kind of like our thoughts around that.
No, I think we're aligned there. It's also, we're seeing this streaming meta kind of pick up where people are mainly going to pump fund for streamers. So it's an interesting like time right now to have this whole launch pad predicated around panels and live streaming and Shark Tank styled pitches. And like you call it, a Kickstarter mixed with Shark Tank, and I forget exactly what you said, but it's a really interesting time to be doing this. And I think there's a market for it that's clearly has an appetite for these streamer coins, they're calling it. Obviously, that's not what you guys really are, but you have that aspect to it, which I think is interesting. My next question would be, at the moment, it seems like you're sort of handpicking projects to raise capital with Stardottfun. How do you democratize that, right? Somewhere like Believe, you used to be able to tweet out and just launch a coin, whereas Stardottfun seems much more, handpick, hand selected. Do you plan on democratizing this? Is it always going to be this way? Just give me thoughts generally on that.
Well, it's not really handpicked right now. We do vetting basically with AI and Twitter, and it's very it's kind of funny because we tell the AI, is this or could this be a rock or a scammer, and if there's some likelihood that he or she is, then don't let him launch, and then we give him the GitHub history and X communications, and how old is your GitHub, how old is your X, what is your interaction like. But yeah, other than that, like that base scam layer essentially, or rock layer, everyone can start a pre-sale.
There's different layers of verification. There's like the first layer is this AI model that we have on the website that basically checks X and GitHub. And that weeds out like 90% of noise, right? Like anyone that wants to launch a scam token or impersonate someone or whatever. And then on the site, we have basically like founder verification, where we look at every team that's launching and we check, okay, is this team reputable? Is this project real? Is this not just a copy pasta of someone else that's doing something? So then they get a green check mark. That's like our signal. That's like, okay, this is a project that we've looked at and can verify is legitimate. And then finally, we have this final layer of control that we have in place for now, because we really want to protect people, which is that teams have to request TGE once they complete their fundraise. And we have to manually approve TGEs for the time being, so that if in case someone manages to raise funding and they're not a legitimate project, we can block the TGE and block the token from going live and refund the investors. So yeah, that's the way we see it going down for like the permissionless side of things, where anyone can like sign up and create a project. The live events are curated, and we are like actively vetting teams and having phone calls and meetings to see who's the best fit, which concepts really stand out. Like, could we see them on Shark Tank, for example? And we've been getting all of these like wonderfully interesting and diverse teams pouring in that even their one liner makes you curious, right? So like those are the kind of teams that we're vetting for the live events.
Have
Yeah.
you talked to people like maybe Killer Whales or something, and thought about maybe some sort of partner episode where you guys have some of the Star.Fun team go on and raise to the Killer Whales panel, if you will, or and anything there you guys have talked about? Maybe you can't speak on it, or do you know what Killer Whale
I
is?
I don't know Killer Whales. I heard their name mentioned on the stream last week, but I haven't looked into them.
Okay,
Okay.
got you,
Very
got you.
clear
Yeah,
look.
they're like crypto Shark Tank, just kind of
Okay.
live panel. They have a whole set, studio,
Cool.
etc.
They're on
Okay.
like Netflix.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Okay,
They're
they're
like
doing
going
a
on to Netflix this season, I think.
okay.
that's cool.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we should definitely hit them up. That's cool.
Okay,
Hey, Dom, I do have a question that I want to address before we hop off. We only have 15 minutes left on this, but you did have one project go through, and we talked about how the stream went the last time, but we didn't talk about any of the outcomes from that. The studio token, our friend Quant tweeted it out. Yeah, I don't maybe just like want to get your take on this launch and learnings from it. I know we talked about a bunch of learnings, but just specifically this kind of experience, like how can
Okay.
we avoid this for the next one? And of course, again, we're trying to build trust here for the future, and I think that's
Yeah.
good for your guys' business as well. But yeah, if you're gonna just address like your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, so so first of all, this is why we do investor vesting in the in the upcoming launches, right? Because as you can see, we we initiated the trading pool and things started out well, and then a couple minutes later the tokens became claimable for everyone, and yeah, you see what happened then. That's what I mean with the race to sell in pre-sales, and I think the 4 hour delay, it was really unfortunate. I tested it, so I built unit test, integration test, end-to-end test for the migration part from pre-sale to pool initiation, essentially. But something went wrong there, and because you're working with quite a lot of money, you want to make sure that everything everything gets launched properly and safely. So I took I took some time, and apologies, of course, for everyone that participated. But in the next one, it will be a lot smoother. Um, and the claim button. Regarding the claim button, I think some people had cache issues on the website, so they had to refresh their cache, and then the claim button became um, workable again. And that's what went wrong. We're also
Yeah.
iterating on that in the future, where we just do an airdrop instead of having a claim button. Um, Airdrops often go wrong because if you work with a lot of people, then you tend to see this effect where some people get their tokens, 5 minutes later or something like this. So a claim button can be good, but only if your website, only if everything is set up correctly, right? And yeah.
Yeah, and this chart obviously doesn't look great, and that situation
No.
happened, but the opposite is also true, right? If you guys do one that you get dialed in and it is successful, that will work towards your platform becoming kind of the spot to go for these launches. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to address it just because it's in the timeline, right? Like people are seeing
Of
it.
course. Yeah.
I think also one funny thing is that this is just the chart, right? And the chart is by no means at this moment in crypto a reflection on how good the business is.
Of course.
These things
But
get over.
it's a data point that people look at their wallet and they say, did
Yeah,
I make money or did I lose money? Right.
true.
And
True.
so at the end of the day, it's always it
Yeah.
does definitely matter. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it really for us like that, having that go wrong following like this stream having issues and like not meeting audience expectations there was brutal. It was like super tough. I think we've both basically just been sleeping for 3 days straight to recover from 2 weeks of nonstop working. So we're now like, we see the truth in it, and we see really what could have gone better on all fronts, from the mechanics of the sale, the vesting, to the team selection, to having them be ready for TGE. There's a lot of things in which we can really do a lot better, and that's going into the next iteration. But this chart also taught us that, like, fundamentally, like, the mechanics of pre-sales need to be iterated and improved on, right? And if Launch Lab or Studio had raised from a base of investors that were like, okay, I'm happy to just sit on my tokens for 3 months, then the chart would have looked very differently, right? And so we really see this as just like another crucial learning experience in our step towards building like this platform. So again, I don't think we would have changed it for anything, because we needed to feel the burn in order to actually build something meaningful, you know? And that's been our story like this whole time, is just like trying, eating shit, learning, making something better. And we know that as long as we're like motivated, which we are more than ever, like we'll figure it out. And yeah, the market will too.
What did some feedback look like from Launch Labs post launch? I'm sure they maybe had some questions. They're probably getting, the Twitter mob hitting them up and directing all sorts of FUD their way. What does that conversation look like, between you and them? What kind of reflections did you have on that you think maybe that you're gonna implement it now, I guess, put towards a better platform in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's much they could have done better. We were active post TGE. They've been putting out content. We could of course had like a significant amount of marketing lined up, or literally just crime the chart up. Like, a lot of people were advising us just to crime the chart. That's the like most common feedback point we get: just crime the chart, bro. But it was mostly really on our end, like around sentiment of our token being very bad, reflecting in theirs, these technical issues, the fact that pre-salers could sell as soon as they were in any form of profit, which you see in the chart. So their feedback overall, like, they're over the moon. Like, these guys, they have a bunch of amazing agentic tools they're building, and they now have a real shot at actually doing that. So they're like, their launch experience on Star is like 9.5 out of 10. Like,
and they raised 300. How much did they raise?
They did 350K in an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty impressive.
So we're like, okay, all FUD aside, things have gone wrong, like terribly wrong, and this chart looks like it came straight from Dante's Inferno. Like,
it is a well-funded team.
Why don't they buy back the chart? I mean, it's sitting at like a 50K market cap. Like, I want to ask this: like, what is their relationship to beyond the look of the chart? Like, do they see the token as part of their business or community building strategy? And like,
100%.
have they talked about, hey, like, we'll take 2% of what we raised and just buy the chart right now? Like,
why?
$6,000 into a chart. Sorry.
But why?
Get back the equity they just sold at a
This
fraction
is-
of the price, right?
Exactly. So this is an important point. Why? Why would teams do this? I think it sends two signals. One, it sends that they are serious to other people. This is very important. At the end of the day, people are investing in this to make money, right? And if they just see that a team raised 350 grand but allowed their token to go to a 50K market cap, what do you think the market thinks of that team going forward? What do you think the perception would be?
But wouldn't you want?
And even just a second, let me finish. Even if it's just a 1 or 2% of what they raise, it sends a signal to the marketplace that they're serious. Now, I'm not saying they have to do this; they don't have to. But like Quant on there, he got hurt financially from this. Do you think he's going to come back to Star in the future, or come back to one of these teams in the future having that experience? No, of course not. Right. So I think it's part of it is like, it just sends signal, right? And they don't have to do it, but Dom, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that of like how a team could recover from this situation, but I think
Well,
it's important to consider.
I will give some pushback. I think people do come back to platforms if they can prove out situations. Like you take Believe for an example. I've seen so many people grave dancing on Believe for a while and saying they'd never come back to Believe. They'll never trade a ticker with BLV in the contract. And once that community forms and people start getting that proof of concept kind of forming, I think people will come back. Right? Ultimately, they're here to make money. So if there's opportunity, they're gonna jump on that. Though I think to Josh's point as well, like, yeah, they did just raise 350K. If they can buy back, you know, half of what they sold for, a fraction of the price, it's like, now they have that supply that's back in their hands. Every company
That
wants
they
to.
can give away in the future for marketing or something, right?
I
Like
wouldn't even give it away, but again, just like, it's all dependent on each team. Of course, like it's not something they have to do, maybe not something they want to do, but I know if I owned a company, I just sold 20% and I could get 10% of that 20% back for, a quarter of what I raised, I potentially would, right? Knowing the value of my company, that is. So I don't know. I think it goes both ways. I don't know if there's one right answer, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on it. We'll see.
I
But I
think
mean,
I think that's an interesting conversation because one is speaking from the perspective of the investor, seeing it as a signal, and the other is a like functional benefit for the team. And like the functional benefit for the team, I totally get. But like if those guys could spend 6K on like a TikTok influencer to make their next app blow up, like wouldn't that be a better use of funds that ultimately the market would be happier about too? Because they're actually building a business that's like standing on solid legs and not just like on the speculation of the token.
I mean, yeah, it could be.
maybe.
Right? It could be.
Right.
I think it's maybe more of a thought exercise than anything, but cool.
Like
I
look
would
at Alan at Pump Fund. Like he started doing things just to see what the market reaction would be. Right. And even if it was like a small amount, they bought $1,000 and just said, hey, we did our first $1,000 buyback because we think our chart's undervalued. That signal to the market, I think, would add more value to their business than the $1,000 they invested in that.
Right. Right.
But is that really value to the business? I don't know. It could be. Like if you
look. I'm going to tell you something real quick. Is you'll live and die by your token holders. When your chart goes to zero, and you're like, man, we got nothing on our timeline. No one's like this is crypto, guys.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you right now, this is crypto, and we have on our show tons of teams that are trying to make it. And it's a competition between teams and tokens at the same time as there's a competition between businesses for the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, we got to wrap because we got to stop soon for another stream today. But that being said, I would love for you guys to give some forward-looking thoughts. Maybe some things you guys are going to do to make this thing extremely successful launch pad, and just leave the people with something to look forward to, please.
Please. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we're fucking relentless in building this thing. Like, we're not stopping. This FUD isn't stopping us one moment from achieving what we want. The fundraising mechanisms will be more advanced. They'll be better. The live streaming will be smoother. The teams will be crypto native. There'll be a bunch of crypto native panelists, crypto native funds. Like, everything is just getting a giant upgrade, and we're so excited to like implement all of that. You'll see the announcements coming out soon. Besides that, we're working on some interesting things like an intelligent buyback program, which teams can use for buyback specifically, but then in a smarter way. I won't say more than that, but it's going to be. We were calling it the intelligent buyback, and it's an innovation on how teams are currently doing buybacks.
There you go.
So this is something no one else is doing.
Yes,
Perhaps.
This is something no one else is doing. We only try to do stuff that no one else is doing.
And I can say that as a testament to Stardottfun. Ultimately, anything anyone's doing in the ICM sector that's going to push it forward and, again, fall on their face and get back up, like it ultimately all pushes us towards the direction we want to see finance and crypto head towards. So, that's a valiant effort, and I obviously can give you guys a lot of credit for that. So,
and we'll cover your next stream. We're gonna do it same thing we did for Mercy and ICM Run. We want to restream your stream, and I want it to be successful. I want a chart to look the opposite of that one and to look super successful, right? Because this then validates what we're all working towards. So I didn't mean to push back, but at the same time, I want us to be open to these ideas because This is what token holders want to hear, and
Yeah,
For
they're
sure.
part of
Yeah.
the equation, right? Because they're the next money into the next project that you guys do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're thinking we're building, like Adam said, we're building smart buyback tech. I'm all for buybacks. It's literally the only thing that makes or breaks ICM, I think. So yeah, that's just I didn't
Love it.
mean to like.
Yeah, no, you're good.
We can debate async as well.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to chop it up.
Yeah. Let's chop
it's
it
all
up,
about.
man. Hey, look, these conversations are important because then it makes the space go forward. So that's
sure.
what we want.
One question I guess I didn't even ask. What is the function / utility of the Star token?
You want to take this one?
I mean, we see it as we will make this buyback program, and then based on our revenue, our runway, and some other parameters, we will buy back and burn some of the Star token as well, and that will be the main utility for Star, I think.
That's the real business fundamental value of it,
Yeah.
is tying it to our own like revenues as a trading platform or as a launch pad. And then we're experimenting with things like staking Star to get access to like shorter vesting contracts, or staking Star to get access to be able to write theses. I don't know what the plurals of thesis is, but like to
Theses.
be able to write a review or to leave a comment in the chat, because we saw the chat was like disgusting if you leave it open.
Yeah.
So like more like platform-based utility. We're also looking at people being able to stake Star in order to get a discount on the trading fees if they buy through the platform. So basically incentivizing people to use the platform instead of like a Jupiter wallet or a Phantom wallet or something like that. So there's a bunch of different mechanisms we're looking at. Nothing that's like confirmed and set in stone. But the primary vision is really tying the token back to the business through buybacks.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome, guys. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for clarifying some stuff, talking about how you guys are feeling post your launch and the first stream. So it was really interesting conversation. Great to have you guys on and get that perspective. I think a lot of people were craving that. So appreciate you guys.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you
Really
so
love
much.
the show. So thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
We love
Thank
you
you.
guys, and yeah, we're gonna keep doing this, and I think it'll be Star. This is just the beginning. I think this is like, you guys learned so much that are gonna make your platform a much better product. So
Very cool.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. We'll catch you again.
Great.
Hopefully get you guys back on maybe a month or two down the road after a couple successful
after
streams,
some
right?
big ones.
Yeah. We'll see you on the next event. Yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yes. See you
Yes.
guys.
Easy, guys. Thank you.
Bye bye.